Welcome to this explainer. Listen, I am absolutely thrilled to share this with you today because we're breaking down some fascinating stuff that's probably going to completely change how you see yourself. If you're someone who feels things intensely, you know exactly what it's like to go through life trying to hide what you kind of think is a flaw. But what if I told you it isn't a flaw at all? What if it's actually a massive biological advantage?
Have you spent your whole life being told you're just too much, too intense, too emotional? Maybe you're the kind of person who cries easily, and not just when you're sad, right? Like you tear up when you're angry, or even when a sunset is just so ridiculously beautiful it overwhelms you. If you're nodding along right now, I just want to completely validate that for you. You've probably spent years trying to toughen up or hide it. But today, we're going to look at the actual science of why you are exactly the way you are.
So, let's dive into the biology here. Turns out, exactly 20% of the human population shares a very specific genetic trait. You aren't broken, you aren't weird, you're just part of this 20%, while the other 80%, well, they just experience the world in a totally different way.
Scientists call this sensory processing sensitivity. It's an actual biological trait where your nervous system is literally wired to record and process the world at a much, much higher resolution. And looking at evolutionary biology, this was absolutely not an accident. This trait was absolutely critical for the survival of early human tribes. Think of that 80% majority as the dandelions of our evolutionary history. They were the resilient warriors, right? They could sleep anywhere, eat anything, and move fast. But a tribe of just dandelion warriors, they'd blindly walk right into a massive storm because they didn't notice the air pressure changing, or they'd eat something toxic because they completely missed a strange smell. They needed the 20%. They needed the orchids. If you have this trait, you were the vanguard of awareness for your tribe. You kept them alive. So here is the bottom line. You are essentially an 8K brain living in a 720p world. Because of this high-res nervous system, you don't just notice a loud noise. You're processing the faint hum of the refrigerator. You're feeling the exact specific texture of the fabric on your arm. You don't just hear the words a friend says to you. You feel that tiny, microscopic hesitation in their voice, and you actually internalize the sadness they're trying to hide. Your radar, it is literally always on.
Which brings us to something called evolutionary mismatch. This completely explains why, even though you have this amazing 8K gift, you probably just feel exhausted and withered most of the time. This mismatch happens when a biological trait that's perfectly designed for one environment gets dropped into a totally incompatible one. Your biology is actually functioning perfectly, it's just in the wrong era. Think about it. Your biology was custom-built for the quiet forest. High stakes, sure, but incredibly low velocity. It was mostly silent. So if a twig snapped, your brain deeply processed that one sound because it meant a predator was close. But now, look at the modern world. Open-plan offices, gridlocked traffic, your phone buzzing non-stop, emotional flooding from the 24-hour news cycle. It's pure, high-velocity noise. And here's the kicker. Your biology literally doesn't have the gating mechanism to filter it out. The result is systemic overload. You're basically redlining your engine just to sit in neutral.
But wait, there is incredible hope here, and it's found in a psychological concept called vantage sensitivity. What this means is, yes, sensitive people definitely suffer way more than dandelions do in harsh, chaotic environments. But, and this is huge, in supportive environments, they actually outperform everyone else. Look, an orchid is not going to survive if you plant it on a concrete sidewalk, but you put that orchid in a greenhouse, it blooms with a complexity and a creativity that a dandelion could literally never achieve.
Okay, part 1. Designing your sensory diet and engineering your physical environment. Let's get you off that sidewalk.
To fix this overload, we're going to borrow a concept from occupational therapy called a sensory diet. Step 1, minimize depleting inputs. Step 2, radically maximize nourishing inputs. It's just like real food. If you eat junk food all day, your body is going to crash. Well, your nervous system is consuming sensory input all day long. If it's feeding on chaotic, stressful noise, your system crashes. We have to change the diet.
Let's tackle those depleting inputs first. If you work in a loud office or have a crazy commute, I want you to internalize this right now. Noise-canceling headphones are personal protective equipment. Seriously, passionately reframe this in your mind. Wearing headphones in a chaotic space isn't you being antisocial or rude, it's creating a totally necessary physical boundary for your sensitive nervous system. It's literally just routine machinery maintenance for your 8K brain.
You also desperately need what's called a restorative niche. This is just a physical space you retreat to so your nervous system can finally idle. It doesn't have to be some fancy Zen room, it can be your parked car, a quiet stairwell, or honestly, a bathroom stall. When you feel that fuzzy, overwhelming fog of overstimulation start to roll in, do not try to push through it. Retreat to your niche for just 5 minutes. No phone, no input, just letting your baseline reset. I promise you, this alone will stop that totally crushing 4 p.m. cumulative crash.
Okay, now we have to radically maximize the nourishing inputs. Listen to me on this one. For a highly sensitive person, beauty is not an optional luxury. It is functional medicine. When a high sensor experiences beauty, it acts as this vital, biological signal of safety. It lets your nervous system finally exhale. You literally need to start scheduling beauty into your day the exact same way you schedule your lunch.
So what does sensory nutrition actually look like in practice? Well, for visual nutrition, spend 10 minutes looking at natural light or the beautiful repeating fractals of tree branches. Tactile nutrition, actually wear clothes that feel soft against your skin, or use a weighted blanket at night. That pressure physically calms your parasympathetic nervous system. Auditory nutrition, pump some brown noise or rain sounds through those headphones. These specific inputs actively replenish the energy that the loud world just drained right out of you.
Oh, and we absolutely cannot talk about your environment without mentioning the digital assault happening in your pocket. Your sensitive brain sees those bright red notification badges as literal physical threats. It keeps you in this low-level anxiety loop all day. Try the gray protocol. Seriously, right after this explainer, go into your phone settings and turn your screen to grayscale. Removing those highly stimulating colors totally kills the dopamine reward. It turns your phone back into a boring piece of plastic and stops it from depleting you every single time you unlock it.
All right, moving right along to part 2, the psychological layer. We need to talk about managing the emotional sponge effect. Because your mirror neurons are basically working in overdrive. You physically absorb other people's anxiety. You don't just logically know your friend is stressed. Your chest actually gets tight. To protect yourself, you've got to learn the difference between empathy and compassion. Neuroscience shows us they are entirely different. Empathy lights up the pain centers in your brain. If your friend is drowning in distress, empathy means you jump in the water and literally drown right next to them. Compassion, though, that activates the reward centers. Compassion means you stay safely on the shore and throw them a rope. You have to stay on the shore, guys. That's the only place you're actually strong enough to help.
So how do you actually stay on the shore? You use this internal script. I see your pain, but it is not mine. The very next time you feel yourself getting pulled under by a friend's distress, catch yourself and repeat that in your head. It creates this instant, powerful psychological boundary. You're acknowledging their reality, but you're refusing to let your nervous system absorb it as a threat.
Next up is the pause protocol. Look, because you feel things so deeply, the idea of disappointing someone actually causes you physical pain. So what do? You instantly say yes to everything just to keep the peace, which obviously leads to your own massive burnout. The pause protocol is a strategic buffer. It exists purely to stop that automatic yes.
Take a mental screenshot of this one. I highly recommend memorizing this exact phrase to use as your ultimate shield against overcommitting. From today on, your default answer to any new request is, "Let me check my capacity and get back to you." Remember, your 8K brain is processing a ton of social data, so it needs extra time to make a good decision. This simple sentence buys you that time.
And once you've bought that time, use the pause to really ask yourself, do I actually have the energy for this right now? Is the person asking me this nourishing to my system, or are they depleting? And ultimately, is this good for my greenhouse? You have to let your logical brain crunch the data before your emotional brain just blindly says yes.
Which brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. You must become the architect of your life. The modern world was simply not built for orchids. It's loud, it's way too fast, and it can be incredibly aggressive. But that absolutely does not mean you don't belong here. It just means you can't afford to live on autopilot. Building this greenhouse, it isn't about hiding away from the world. It's about ruthlessly resourcing yourself so you can step out and vibrantly, actively participate in it.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. What is one single change you're going to make today to start building your greenhouse? Are you going to finally get those noise-canceling headphones? Are you going to find your restorative niche at work? Or maybe start using the pause protocol? When you take control and build your greenhouse, you stop just surviving the noise, and you actually unlock your vantage sensitivity. You truly bloom. So make that one change today. And hey, if this explainer helped you understand yourself a little bit better, please hit subscribe so we can keep exploring this stuff together. Catch you next time.